A brand new Bedrock beta is out right now, and it has added support for custom dimensions. Seriously, this is the line from the 26.20.26 changelog, which is very intriguing, but also they've added a big new sulfur cube change, and notably not made all of the changes that Java just made. What exactly is the deal with these custom dimensions? Well, allow me to explain, because hello, I'm ABXClickHat, and I could clickbait you, but let's start today's video with the thing you probably care most about. It's the thing I'm most interested in. What is the deal with these custom dimensions? Well, as you can see, reading the changelog, it actually appears in the experimental and then in the API section, telling us that this is likely something they are doing for the benefit of add-on creators. Add-ons on Bedrock basically function in a way that you can only edit the things that Microsoft lets you, basically, rather than Java mods, which can do anything with the source code. This means that they run more stably, but it means that if there isn't a part of the code allowing custom dimensions, then by default they're not allowed, and they work in really weird, quirky, and honestly weird ways. But now, thanks to this change and the ability to have those dimensions load on runtime, you'll be able to make yourself a brand new portal going to any weird dimension, which is something that mostly will matter for add-on creators. I don't think it's guaranteed to be in the base game, but I will say that we have Dungeons 2 coming this year, which continually markets itself on the back of the Ancient City portal, and given that we've seen many other features, such as flying mobs, start as add-on creations only, and then later become things that the base game could do, I would say that there's still some promise yet, but I wouldn't expect to see that later in the Sulfur Cube update, in the Chaos Cubed drop. I wouldn't necessarily expect to see a brand new Sulfur dimension, but I will say this is something Mojang now can do, because they've removed their hard locked cap on dimensions, which is currently just the never and the end, and now, just like how the Java snapshots have added joking dimensions for years, in theory, Bedrock could do that, either for a joke update, or maybe even for a real one. But speaking of real ones, we know that this is a future feature, one that might launch later this year, perhaps in add-ons only, but we do know for a fact that the Sulfur Cube update, the Chaos Cubed, is going to be releasing much sooner, which is why I'm far more excited to see what happens with that mob, which, just as a fun fact, is called the Sulfur Cube inside the game. Oh, apparently there's no Sulfur Cube inside the game. I made that up. The command does actually work, I just forgot to enable drop to 2026. Fun fact, if you want to download the beta and actually test the Chaos Cube features, you will need to enable that experimental toggle, otherwise none of the features will be there. But anyway, here you can see the command is working, and pay attention to that spelling before I talk to you about the major Chaos Cube feature here, because obviously I think custom dimensions dwarfs anything, but as far as Chaos Cube changes goes, one of the most interesting is this new ability, which is that now the sulfur slimes, they're sulfur cubes in the game code, but sulfur slimes in apparently the main game. The interesting thing about sulfur slimes is now they'll take into account your direction of hit, and they'll move in a corresponding one. That means that if I hit this mob from the top, as you can see, he'll kind of have a downwards momentum, whereas if I hit this mob from underneath, which I can do quite easily like this, then you'll see that it'll have more of an upwards momentum, flying far further. And although there are many other issues with their momentum that are worth dealing with, it is kind of cool to see that, like, yeah, hit this block from the right and he goes left, hit this block from the left and guess where he's gonna go? Wow, right. This is a cool little change to making the update better, but it is the only official change they really mentioned with regards to actually changing anything to do with Sulfur and Cinnabar. But there is a secret change, not mentioned on the changelog, because it is to do with the language files. If you checked last week's beta, and I believe this week's snapshot, Sulfur is spelt with an F. I went back and checked my high quality video, by the way. I thought it was great anyway. Apparently people disagreed, but I went back and checked my own video, and you can see that it was spelt sulfur with a P, but now, with an F, sorry, but now if you play Minecraft with your language set to anything but English American, it will now say sulfur with a PH, which is a very intriguing change, and one I'm actually kind of torn about, because on the one hand, yes, obviously it should be chiseled sulfur and polished sulfur and potent sulfur, but it is a very interesting change to now have basically half the community call it one way and half call it the other. But you know, Minecraft's fun like that, isn't it? Speaking of fun like that, did you know that lots of features were added to yesterday's Java snapshot that don't exist here on Bedrock? Here's me trying to craft potent sulfur into regular sulfur, but I'm not able to do so despite the fact that I can do so the other way. That's because yesterday's Java snapshot has features not found in this beta, and vice versa, and I'd like to talk about those right after I get a little high. You know, it's been nice, but sometimes I need to let loose. And while I'm letting loose anyway, actually, let me tell you about something fun and new that just launched. If you're not familiar with console aspects and the Timeless Adventures that is available on the marketplace, it's a collaboration between my marketplace team and Agent Mindstorm, and it just got a brand new update. You know, I'll show you the update so you don't have to look at this anymore. Anyway, this brand new update to Timeless Adventures, which, by the way, as you can see, brings back a lot of the nostalgia, including with these menus and with the noises you get when you press anything. It's just added 2 brand new things that weren't there before. One of those is hardcore support. You can now play in a console edition style world with hardcore on, or even crazier, in my opinion, is the fact that we can also have vibrant visuals. This is kind of weird that it wasn't there by default, but every piece of marketplace content has to manually approve vibrant visuals, and so now you can imagine what console edition would look like if it also was vibrant and hardcore. Available right now, and if you already own the Timeless Adventures, it's a free update. Indeed, lots of marketplace teams don't support their old content, but we do our very best, and so thank you to, honestly, Agent Mindstorm. You did a great job of this. But you know who else did a great job? The Java developers on making a brand new version system that doesn't confuse anyone, because did you know a brand new Java snapshot came out today, 26.1.2, not to be confused with the snapshot 26.2, which is the far more exciting one. I want to tell you about today's snapshot though, because I think this is the funniest thing. We always talk about Minecraft Bedrock changelogs getting shorter and shorter and fixing fewer and fewer bugs, but today's Java snapshot, 26.1.2, has fixed nothing. They're releasing a brand new main Minecraft version, and the changelog says nothing. They have changed nothing, and yet they are releasing a new update. And I think that's hilarious personally. But I also think it's interesting that they brought out a new snapshot which doesn't match the latest Bedrock beta. And so, since this has a huge effect on you, even if you play Bedrock, since these features will inevitably make their way there, let's talk about the features added in the Java snapshot that aren't in the Bedrock beta, and indeed the reverse. Because interestingly, as you might have seen earlier, I was putting honey blocks inside of my sulfur slimes, but this isn't possible on Java. The wiki has already put together the list of which ones are Bedrock and which one are Java exclusive, but there's a weird non-overlapping list here, but also the sulfur is just spelt with an F. Very, very intriguing too, and even more interesting is it seems to not quite have the exact same physics that it does on the Bedrock version of the game, meaning that some people are saying, including Oprah GX, if you want to get your Minecraft news from a web browser, that, oh my god, Minecraft just hate fun, and that's what it is, but it seems as though they just implemented an entirely different version of the same physics, which means that making monorails is not as easy, because obviously the reach distance is not as good. Which version is the intended one? It's hard to actually say. There are developers' comments on it, one way or the other, but we're gonna have to wait and see whether Java becomes more like Bedrock or Bedrock becomes more like Java. And there's always the fear in these things that, like, oh yeah, if Bedrock has the cooler one, that means they're gonna remove it to match Java. But I hope that that's not the case. Speaking of things that are different between Bedrock and Java, Java also has this crafting recipe I hinted at, where you can take some potent sulfur and you can actually turn them into regular sulfur. What's interesting though is 1 potent sulfur is equal to 4 sulfur blocks, but you need to still put 9 sulfur in there to get 1 potent. This is arguably to discourage the, you can't just use potent sulfur as a collection source for regular sulfur, but still it's really wild in my opinion, and it's one of the first times we've seen like a non-one-way recipe that way. Hugely intriguing, but I think the most intriguing of all is the Cinnabar beetle. You might have, the Cinnabar spider, it has 8 legs now. You might have looked at it and wondered, like, so why is the spider there? And Mojang have answered our prayers, and in my opinion, given the coolest feature of either version's update, outside of the biome itself, because now, in the sulfur caves, you will find cave spiders spawning. That's right, the cave spiders now officially spawn in caves! I've been waiting for this day for so many years, and yeah, I cannot believe that adds a little bit of risk to the sulfur caves. It's not just the pure upside of having a funky block that you can one day take home. By the way, if you've not seen this yet, right, you can actually put him in a bucket if you want to. I think I showed it off last time, but he'll actually maintain not just the block that's inside, but also the relative position, which is really quite weird if you ask me. Anyway, speaking of things that are weird, let's also talk about the next weird thing, because Java has something else that Bedrock doesn't have, but we don't expect it to ever come over. It's the brand new Vulkan renderer. So this is the start of what will one day be vibrant visuals for the Java edition, and you can now tell Minecraft to prefer Vulkan, which I guess, sure, I'll do that, why not? Although I will have to say that this adds a little bit of complexity to the menus there, although there's already a lot of complexity of the snapshots, as you can see. Trying to pick the newest one to actually play the new features is slightly trickier than the Bedrock equivalent, which is one of those few things we can say like, oh yeah, Bedrock actually does this better. Even the version numbering, I think, makes more sense on Bedrock than Java, but fight me if you disagree, because yeah, I think that I would like to see some more, clarity about which of these features will be, which version is the intended, or indeed if they're willing to just publicly say, look, yeah, we just like how they rolled out Sulfur and then they doled it down a bit based on community feedback, based on everyone mocking them for being ketchup and mustard, it sounds like. Maybe they'll do the same with physics, like which version is better? Is it the Bedrock one or is it the Java one? You tell me. But for now, can we get him up a block if we like punch him down here maybe? Okay, so let's give it a try. Doesn't look like that's happening. But do you know what else isn't happening anytime soon? This is a really fun showcase from Sir Baconface showing what happens if you use the brand new, sulfur slimes from Java with the strength attribute to max it out. Absolutely hilarious to see it go flying there. But interestingly, actually, yeah, the brand new effect that exists on the Java edition, the attributes, can be used for all sorts of fun things. Indeed, Phoenix, as you can see right here, is using it to make himself into a sulfur slime. And this is one of those weird features that is just on the Bedrock version of the game. It's just on the Java version. And even though it came out a long time ago on Java, it still has not made its way to Bedrock. So it is possible that they remain different. But again, there are lots of talks about them making things equal. But one of the other weird things that isn't equal is this. This is something you might recognize from the start of the video. I loaded up the exact same seed on Bedrock. It was posted to Reddit by this user because they say that if you press F3 right here, you'll find that this water on the surface is actually a part of this biome right here. I can't see my biome though, actually. I guess I must have disabled it. But apparently it's a part of the sulfur caves. And what's interesting is that, yeah, the biome distribution is meant to be the same between versions, but you do get some weird differences because obviously structures generate differently, and that includes the brand new sulfur spring. So this is what the sulfur spring looks like on Java, exactly the same as its Bedrock counterpart, but as you can see, once we load it up on Bedrock right here, it's in an entirely different place because there is one that was found just over here. I showed it in the intro. There's one found just over here. And then even more interestingly, I only found these while trying to make sure that it was the same sulfur spring, but there's a third one over here and then a fourth one over here. And then get this, there's actually a fifth one all the way over here. And I'm guessing that there's some more that I just haven't spotted right now. Here's an interesting thing about the sulfur slimes. How many of sulfur springs, how many of these is too many to show off the exact same biome? And it's a cool biome and I love that you can access it from the surface. But this is an interesting question that I look forward to them actually answering because this is a beta preview / snapshot. I actually really like that they're kind of taking things in different directions from Java to Bedrock, but I hope that their plan is to then take the best ideas from both rather than to say, oh yeah, actually the Java team just did it wrong or the Bedrock team just did it wrong and so we'll fix them to make it better. Let's actually, try different ideas and see which one works best, because ultimately, isn't that meant to be the point of the snapshot and preview process, is to try things out and then only finalize them later? Maybe I'm thinking too grandly, but for now, I will say that I am absolutely fascinated by all of this, and maybe you are too. If you are, you might also enjoy something that I said I would include in yesterday's video, but that didn't make the final cut, which is that, fun fact, so the Shredder right here has actually been digging into the MCPE code because of the leak that happened recently, and they found out that there was originally going to be code to make a world border not look like the endless void that it does in the final version, but to have it look like the endless ocean, like in the console edition, and so I think that's cool that there was a link between these two versions. But anyway, with that said, to conclude today, we have a brand new beta that really added one new feature to the Chaos Cubed, but it added a far bigger feature that you're going to be seeing in add-on content, but I guess also marketplace content in the next, 3 to 9 months, depending on how long it takes to come to the base game and how long it takes people to actually make cool things of it. This is really exciting, I think, because even if you don't care about it, it's a sign that Mojang themselves are now going to find it easier to do this in the future, as they did when making the Happy Ghast, but I think that it also is something that kind of inspires me. It's like, maybe we should try making a custom dimension, so that's something that I'm definitely going to play around with in the future. But for now, all I can say is thank you very much for watching, and no, I've got one last thing I want to say. Screw it. Screw the ending. I don't know. I'm not good at doing doing those anyway. Here's a fun difference between Bedrock and Java that I think that actually Bedrock does better. I learned this because I saw a Reddit post that said that someone was upset that they removed the true damage from swords on Java in a 1.21 snapshot, and actually you can see that on Bedrock. My Neverite sword does 8 damage, but my Neverite sword with sharpness 5 does 14 damage. This is handy to see and helps me actually compare swords, honestly, and it's something that's just not available on Java. Don't ask me why. But do ask me what I think about bouncing slimes around, because I love this stuff. You better believe I'm going to be doing this all day, every day. This is a fun new mob, almost as fun as a new dimension, dare I say. But with that said, I hope you'll enjoy the video, because I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Oh, subscribe, maybe, if you feel like it. Also, you can really see the increased rate of desert well spawning on this world. Look how many we got. Okay, subscribe to see more desert well related content like this. Bye.